Hey guys, what is up? It is Matt here again with One Stop Cards, and today I am going over a beginner's guide to understanding your card values. That means after today's video, you'll have the tools you need to go out and determine what your cards are worth. Okay, Matt here again with One Stop Cards, and if you are new to the channel, please make sure you hit that subscribe button so you understand how to build your collection and start trading and investing like a pro in the sports card market. Today the hobby is stronger than ever, and I wanted to create this video to help everyone out to understand what their cards are actually worth. That means that we want to figure out how we can make the most off of the cards we want to sell and know the true value of the cards that we want to keep. So in my previous video, how to begin your own sports card collection, and that goes over kind of the true steps of determining if you're a card collector, an investor, or a hybrid between the two. So make sure you watch that first before you dive into what we're going over today. At the end of this, you will be able to check out a link to PSA where I got all this great information from. It's from a guy that posts there pretty regularly. His name is Ryan Gata. The first piece that we all need to understand is supply. And I mean supply in the sense of rarity of a card. So there are certain cards out there that you will see on the back that are numbered. So what that means for us as collectors or investors is that there is only X amount made of that card. So that's important to understand because not all cards are numbered, but some of them are not produced as heavily as some of the other cards, so they're a lot harder to find, even ungraded. The other point I wanted to hit on was that rarity does not always equal a higher value on your card. So even though it is a numbered card, or maybe there was less produced of that card, it doesn't necessarily mean that the value will go up. This is just a factor that we look at. So you're probably thinking to yourself, what are the other pieces that we look at? And to determine that value, it really breaks down into a formula that is not foolproof by any means, but it would look like supply plus popularity plus the condition of your card would determine its value. So when we look at popularity, I mean, we really are just speaking of how much people want that card. There are plenty of cards that are not numbered that people just really want to get a hold of. One of the sets this year, which I'm a big fan of, if you see me on social media, is the Net Marvels inserts from Donruss Basketball 2019-2020. They are really cool cards, and they have this superhero look to them that I think makes a lot of collectors and investors attracted to the cards. So you can go and check those out. I'll put a photo up here so you can at least see that. The final piece of the calculation that we haven't covered is the condition of your card. So that means a number of things, and that can be from the centering of the card to are the corners nice and sharp on the card, to even if there are any surface damages to the card. So the second piece we're going over today is learning a grading scale. So the scale that I like to look at most, because I submit my cards through PSA, is PSA's scale. And PSA goes on a scale of 1 to 10. And that 1 number is a poor rating, whereas 10 is a gem mint rating. And what does that really mean? Well, a poor rating would mean that there are damages to the card, or the corners are bent, or there's whitening on the edges, or the centering of the picture isn't perfect. So there's different levels of that damage and different levels of those issues with the card, and that's what their job really is, aside from authenticating that it's a real card. So if we move up that scale to a 10, where we have a perfect card, then that's where you can find something with the perfect sharp corners, the perfect edges that are not whitening and don't have those fringes sticking up because of damage, and no surface damage, of course. And we're looking for that picture to be nice and perfectly centered, a perfect card. Now, grading typically helps the value of cards, but it also depends on those other factors we talked about. One instance that we can look at is if you have a card that is worth good value, you know the supply was low, popularity is high, and the condition is pretty good. Well, what does that pretty good mean? Because if you have a card that is raw, meaning just out of the pack, and it's not in a PSA case because it wasn't graded and authenticated, then it might be worth market value. And there's a market value that you can figure out in a number of ways that we'll get into. But overall, if we're looking at that card as is, it has about the equivalent value right now of what seems to be somewhere between a PSA 7 and a PSA 8 graded card. So you might be thinking to yourself, well, that's pretty high as far as being close to that perfect end of the scale. And that's true, because not all cards even come out of a pack and they're at that quality. Some cards will come out misprinted, as I said. Some cards will come out and be completely off center, and those cards would not grade that high. Now, if we're looking at things at the higher end of the scale, the 9s and the 10s, if you're able to get your cards graded at those levels, then your card value will likely be going up because people are looking for that. Now, the little asterisk I like to insert here is, again, we go back to rarity. Once your cards are graded, there are population reports out there by the grading services that you can look at, and I'll touch on that at the end. But of course, if you have a card that is highly graded with a whole lot of 10s, then it does not become as rare. So it does not mean that the value is going to go up as high as, say, a 1/1 card that is perfectly graded, because no matter what, there is not another one of those cards out there. The third component we're covering today is something that I went over in my last video, which is storage and protection for your cards. So you want to make sure that you are able to go out there and buy the right stuff to keep your cards safe. And I don't just mean to get a couple of card sleeves and call it a day, but you want to have enough to keep your cards stored in a safe location, and you want them to be able to be in a cool and dry place. Some of the old junk wax cards, if you will, stick together in heat, and even today's cards with the different holographic backgrounds and the foils, they can get all messed up. So we want to make sure we're taking care of our cards. Now, the other piece is you'll certainly come across certain cards that you have or you find that you want to display, which is okay, but we want to make sure that we're being aware and we're protecting our cards when we're displaying them by protecting them from the sun and UV light, because that can damage our cards. Not only the card itself, but it has the chance to really do damage on some of those nice autographs that you're looking to collect, and that's the last thing you want to damage your card. So the next piece we're going over is how to determine that card value now that you have these other pieces in place. And what we're going to be looking at is, again, reviewing that condition of the card, and then we want to move forward and find out what those sales prices look like right now. So there's a couple of different ways we can do that, and one of the most common that I use all the time, literally every day if I'm selling or trading a card, is to go on eBay and take a look at what recent sales prices are. You want to be able to look up a card, look up the grade of a card, or even if it's ungraded, and then you want to understand the price that it's sold at for not just the buy now. You want to be able to look up the auction sales. So auction sales tend to be a more accurate representation of what that card is selling at, because people were outbidding one another, and it helps you see the true driver behind the card value. Okay, so now you've gone out, you've done the legwork, you have the condition of your card, you've seen some recent sales prices, and you want to understand what to do when your card is a valuable card. You can always consider to go out and have it graded. If you're able to go out and have a card graded around that 9 or 10 grade, it will typically fetch a higher price. So if you know that your card does not look well centered, it will not likely get a 9 or a 10 grade, you might consider not grading it, but you do want to make sure that you go out and you properly protect and store that card. And lastly, guys, I want to just leave you with the resources and the other tools that you may need to go out there and make sure that you're finding the most accurate value for your card possible. Now, what does that mean? Well, with PSA and Beckett, they have some great population reports. I personally prefer to use PSA. I just like the cases. I think they're simple to use. But one unique thing about Beckett grading is that they don't just have a single card grade, but they also offer the option for subgrades. So that will break down not only the overall card condition, but that will dive into the 4 main categories, which are the centering on your card, the corners of your card, the surface of your card, and the edges of your card. Now, if you also have an autograph, there is a subgrade for the autograph itself too that would be in the top right of the cards. Now, the biggest resource that is available for everyone to use, and I highly recommend that you take a look at, is going through eBay and looking at those recent prices for your cards. You want to get a good understanding of what's available on the market today. So that goes back to our rarity. We want to see the conditions of cards. So again, how many cards are available in a great condition like your card, or if it's not in such good condition, how many cards are even available? Your card may be worth far more than you think. On the other hand, it might be worth far less than you think. So you just want to take a look at what the current market is doing, and that eBay is one of the best tools to do that. So that is going to wrap it up for today, guys. I'm happy we're able to have a second video in this series of getting you up and running with your own sports card collection. Again, if you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a video on how to start and then grow your own sports card collection. If you did enjoy this video, please like and share it with a friend so they can enjoy the hobby just as much as everyone else in the community. And until next time, I will see you and the rest of the pack later. Go time!